Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Kimmy, the podcast. This is a topic I've been wanting to talk about for a very long time, the mental load of motherhood. Now, before I was a mother, a lot of my friends who already had kids talked about the mental load of being a mother, and it was really so hard for me to relate to them because I had no experience. I didn't have any kids at the time. But now that I have a baby boy, my beautiful Marky Poo, he is just such a blessing that came at the very right time in my life. And I feel like all this experience that I've been getting with Marky, it's just, I'm able to relate to them. And I go back at the times when they were going through it. Sometimes they are going through it still, and their kids are older now. So it does not stop. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. So I can't wait to just get into this topic with you guys. You know, being a mother is the greatest gift of all time. It's also the most challenging job we can take. However, one thing is for certain. God created mothers, and in his image we were made. If we want to take it back in time, okay, when everything started and God created the earth and Adam and Eve, I'll take it there. Look at Eve, for example. If you look up the meaning of Eve's name, it literally means life or living. God designed women with the unique ability to create, carry, and bring new life. Now, this ability is a picture of God as a creator, the original life giver. Not only do mothers represent God when they bring new life, but also when they nurture that new life. You know, after going through postpartum depression and loss of identity, I rejoice in the thought that I was one of the chosen ones who gets to take this job and make the most out of it. That even when the world is crumbling down and you don't know what the heck you're doing, and sometimes even question if you're doing it right, well, guess what? In your children's eyes, you are perfect. And in God's eyes, you're handling business. Now, a mother is a manager for her family, a teacher for her children, world's best chef, household nurse, financial controller, provider, you name it. And if you can think of any of the titles, please leave a comment in the comment section. Subscribe also, and like this video. Please give it a thumbs up. And dads, if you're watching this, I'm glad you are, because if your wife or mother of your children are acting a little different or moody or are not able to fully express or communicate their feelings, then this episode will certainly guaranteed give you a peace of mind and a little understanding of what us mothers go through every day. Now, ladies, I hope I'm able to take the words out of your mouth and hold each other's hand throughout this journey, because we're not alone and it's not easy. Stay tuned, okay, for a special guest joining us later in this episode. She's a mom of one baby boy. Her name is Gardenia Zuniga, and she's a domestic violence survivor. She'll be sharing her story and how she was able to find light at the end of the tunnel. Her strength is truly inspiring, so stay tuned for that. Now, the mental load of motherhood is such an important topic to me because growing up in a Hispanic household, you have all these expectations and traditions and beliefs, and you know, you work really, really hard all your life to meet each and every one of them to make your parents and family proud, right? But sometimes things don't go as they're expected. Now, when I found out I was pregnant, I couldn't stop crying tears of joy and instantly hugged my tummy, started talking to my little fetus. I didn't have any ultrasounds then because I had just found out I was pregnant. And I've waited for this moment my entire life. God knew this is what I needed at this very exact moment in my life. It was just the most wonderful blessing I could have ever received. However, even after I was feeling so much joy in my heart, I couldn't stop thinking about what my family and everyone I knew was going to think about me because I got pregnant before marriage. Now, my son's dad and I happily planned our baby boy, so he was definitely made with so much love. But in the back of my head, you know, I thought about the finger pointing and criticisms and that I was going to get because I didn't do it the, quote, traditional way, which is, of course, marriage first and then kids later. Fortunately, though, my entire family, God bless them, They were so very supporting, and they were very happy that they were finally going to have another baby in the family, since obviously we're older, so he's going to be the baby. Are just head over heels for him, and of course love is unconditionally, and I'm very, very lucky to have the best people around me. But sometimes when the most wonderful support around you, you still carry that mental load of being a mother daily. And I'm here to tell you that you are not alone for feeling this way. And quite frankly, that would probably never stop, because you're going to be a mom for the rest of your life. Now, some wise moms have told me in the past that it doesn't get easier, but you do get stronger. So that's something to keep in mind, that will definitely lighten up the day, because what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Now, you might see a mom at the grocery store talking to herself often, and I do it all the time, y'all. Like, she's not crazy, okay? She's not. She just has all these tabs open in her head about everything you can think of, so don't judge her. We ain't perfect. And if I can describe the mental load of motherhood, I would describe it as the mental load of having a million tabs open with, different music playing all at once in the background. And you're trying to focus on that one tab, but the others keep playing in the background. And suddenly you just don't know what to do, or how to feel, or what to pay attention to, let her know how to react. Okay, so now you're overwhelmed with a million thoughts and a million emotions. And what do? At that point, you just break down. Now you're in the bathroom letting out a silent cry and a silent scream, because you're tired and restless. And as a mother, you feel like it's your full-on responsibility to make sure everyone in your household is healthy, well-fed, comfortable, in a clean and sparkly home, and most importantly, happy. While putting yourself and your needs always last. And as a mother myself, now I can tell you that's normal. Like, I do that too. You often feel misunderstood. You feel like people are not being patient with you. Then you start to lose friends. You guys can't relate anymore. You have kids, they don't. Life is not the same for you. You have to, put your career on hold. Then finally you're ready to jump back. But now you're feeling lost and so behind with things constantly changing around you. It's a whole new world out here. You don't know where to begin again. I get it. The mental load of motherhood is wanting to help your spouse, partner, out financially, but then nobody can watch after your kids, and you can't afford daycare or babysitter. You feel the pressure of family members in your ear constantly telling you what you're doing wrong and you're not doing right. And, since they've been through it and they have all that experience, they kind of are constantly in your ear telling you like what you should be doing, what you should not be doing. That adds on to that load. And, all you wish you could feel at that moment is just loved. You just want that love, and you want to feel celebrated, because it's a gift to be a mother. You have to meet a complete new version of yourself, because the old one is long gone and she's not coming back. That's the reality. And I think we all have to come to terms into that. But what's the greatest thing about that is that even though it's a whole new version of yourself, myself personally, I can't imagine myself without my family or my son now. I don't even know what was life before them. And I'm not going to lie, the mental load of motherhood is also trying to break those generational curses while also trying to unlearn certain behaviors that you've carried on your entire life so that you can be the best mother and partner you can be. The mental load of motherhood is getting out of a toxic relationship and doing it all on your own. It's starting a new job or going back to your old one and, You're worried sick about your child and, his well-being, his or her well-being, or how they're being treated at daycare, and if they're giving grandma a hard time or not, or if grandma's gonna watch them again. You often feel alone and unsupported, while at the same time it's hard to receive the support from loved ones because the voices in your head are telling you that you're not doing good enough, or you're not enough, or you're not being the best mother, or, quote, you knew what you were doing before your blessing arrived, so there's no room for complaints anymore. You often feel voiceless. It's almost like the way we as mothers feel is not valid anymore because that's what we, quote, signed up for. So let's just suck it up and smile and wave, princess. The mental load of motherhood is making sure your partner's happy and taken care of, while also trying to find ways to keep the spark alive, while making sure your child is happy and fed and dressed. Making sure that you're also finding the time of already a tiresome day to play with them and make sure they're meeting their milestones every day. It's balancing the time to go to their sporting events, picking them up from a friend's house, daycare, school, practice. Making sure that they're safe as soon as they're old enough to leave the house. You worry every day. I totally get my mom now. I understand why she would worry when I was in high school and I would go out with friends. I totally get those text messages, those phone calls that I would sometimes ignore. I get it now. And my son is barely 1.5. The mental load of wanting to be a cool mom while making it clear that you have a bigger voice, of course, because you are the adult and you are the parent. And after you're done with your mommy duties, you look at the time and it's almost midnight. You spent your entire day cleaning, organizing, sanitizing, washing and folding clothes. You had a big pile of dishes that needed to get washed, and you did that. And now it's midnight, almost midnight. Your me time turned into, it's time to go to bed now, because you're exhausted at this point. There's really no me time. And it repeats all over again tomorrow, so you better get some rest. Mental load of motherhood. One day you're feeling anxiety and depression. The next day you're joyous and optimistic. And a different day you're trying to block all the voices in your head and start to focus. Pick up where you left off. Then your child starts to cry and your kids start to fight. You and your spouse are not seeing eye to eye on things, and all of that goes down the drain. There goes a good day, right? Now you got to think of a new plan. Well, there's no such thing as a plan A or plan B or C or D. Motherhood is about improvising as you go, right? There's no actual manual that you can look at that's going to guide you to tell you exactly what you need to do at that given time in that situation. I mean, you can try and Google it, like I've tried it a couple times, but let's face it, that will either only work for so long or it probably won't. But reality is that we just have to learn as we go, and that is okay. That is perfectly okay. There is light at the end of the tunnel. The downside, it doesn't get easier, but the bright side, like the wise mamas have told me, is that you, mom, you will get stronger and more capable of taking over the world. So let this episode encourage you. If you're currently carrying this mental load yourself, Gardenia is coming up next. She's going to let us know her story and how she overcame that toxic relationship with the father of her son and how she sought the light at the end of the tunnel. So I hope you stay watching because she's up next. So let's get that courage again and that strength that we all need, because we need to hold each other's hands during this journey. I'm here for you, and I know you're here for me as well. So leave a comment below if you're enjoying this video so far. Let's hear what Gardenia has to say. So, my very first guest on this podcast episode, Mental Load of Motherhood, is the very own Gardenia. I talked to you guys a little bit about her, and she's doing just an amazing job as a mom and as an entrepreneur as well. Hi, girl. How are you?
Good, Mama. How are you? How's motherhood?
I'm great. Oh, motherhood. It's ups and downs. But
Mhm.
that's why I wanted to bring you on the show because you're doing just an outstanding job as an entrepreneur. You have your own nonprofit organization as well, right? Everything
Yeah.
related to motherhood. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yes. So we have a Surviving Toxic Madres, which it's becoming a nonprofit soon. We're in the process, of the legalities, but I created Surviving Toxic Madres out of love to other mothers that were struggling like I was. Granted, I had, like you, a pandemic baby, and I was in a very bad relationship to say the least.
Mhm.
And to me, creating
The
that,
father of your son?
yeah, the father of the child, yeah. So for me, creating that was an outlet to be able to connect with other mothers that felt like they were trapped. I felt enough empowerment and courage engaging with other mothers, like amongst ourselves, that I was able to leave and to break the cycle of being a toxic madre. So to me, toxic madre is not just like, oh, my mom's toxic, because she could be sometimes, but it's more like me breaking the cycle and not being part of that cycle.
What happened between you and his father?
Yeah, of course, girl, I'll give you the tea. So,
Give
you
me the
know,
secret. I got some
it's
wine here,
there
okay?
you go, mommy juice. I need some mommy juice now. But it was, to be honest with you, it was a pandemic. Honestly, it was a Netflix and chill situation. Nothing more, nothing less. And when I got pregnant, I knew I didn't want to be with him, but out of the family, like, oh, you need to be with him, you need to make things work out, because how are you going to raise your child without a father? So because of obligation, I stayed with him, but I knew it wasn't going to work out. I saw so many red flags that were stacking up to the point that I was 4 months pregnant, googling how to break up with the father of your child while pregnant. I
Wow.
will never forget that, feeling my baby and just googling, how do I do this, and I got hit with really bad prenatal depression,
Mm.
postpartum. Postpartum was the worst for me. And unfortunately, he became verbally abusive to the point that at one time he became physically.
No.
And that's when
After you,
I, what was that?
after you had your son?
Yes. And even when I had my child, instead of, him being there for me, he left to go party. And I gave birth alone. My
Mm.
first baby, second lockdown, and I didn't have the support I thought I would. Something so special became so painful, but I was so thankful that I had my baby, my chiquito, and I promised my son I will never let nobody disrespect us the way I felt disrespected throughout my pregnancy. And I try to make amends because the family's like, you can be a single mom, you need to work it out. But in
Right.
my head, I'm like, no, I'm probably better alone, to be real. And I ended up moving back to San Francisco with hopes of like a new life, back, because I was pregnant in Fresno. I went back home to be with my mom. And it's kind of like a whole person came out that I didn't know. Like it was already bad, but the worst came out to the point that he was bringing people over that I didn't feel comfortable. Some people were gang affiliated. Things were being brought to my home that I was like not safe. It got really bad to the point, Kimmy, that I had to do a code word with my neighbors just in case something happened to me. And I just remember telling my best friends, like, how do I get out of this? I called the cops multiple times. They never came. They never came. And I lived in downtown San Francisco where there's cops everywhere. They come for homeless, but they wouldn't come.
Or anything? They just never came?
They said, oh, they practically said you haven't been hit yet. And
Oh.
that was like the worst feeling. And,
Mm.
when it actually happened, I actually had my mom, luckily she was there that weekend. I had my mom take me to the police station and I filed a report, and he was, taken into custody, and the district attorney dropped the charges and let him out free. So
Mhm.
that's when the real nightmare happened, because I got all the wrath of like, oh, you put me in jail. And it was a nightmare. Thank God we're in a better place. I had to lawyer up, to be honest with you. And thank God that San Francisco is a sanctuary city, because there was so many resources with mental health, with
Right.
abused women, that
Mhm.
I was able to get to help me get afloat with my child. And, I have a restraining order for 5 years on the meantime. And I did a lot of healing, but in the midst of going through all that, I created, Surviving Toxic Madres, because I will see my baby crying, or, just the fear of what was going on. And I remember telling myself, I did not go through hell to be a mother, to put my son through this. Like, how can I break the cycle of toxicity? And that's when I created it with, my friend Kylie, who has been there for me, and she's just Nina. And a lot of healing. I would tell you that therapy does work. I did therapy for 2 days or 3 days out of a week.
That's all.
Um, yeah, like it definitely helped me. If it wasn't for therapy, I don't think I will be where I'm at today. Therapy really helped me to the point that I learned to love myself, because I was told you're never going to be loved. You're fat, you had a baby, you don't look the same. But our bodies change. We just pushed a baby out, or we had a baby get evicted, however the baby came,
Mhm.
so a lot of self-love, a lot of therapy. Motherhood's not easy, but it's beautiful. And once I felt like I was ready, I started pushing myself with my career,
Right.
with my job all over again, to the point that I'm proudly can say that my job has taken off to places I never thought I would.
Mhm.
But also, I have a partner now, a good man. And I ironically put myself on Hinge. Like I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go on Hinge just to see what's out there, like muy acá yo.
He just came
And I
when you most needed him at the right time.
right, and it's funny because I straight up put I am a single mother of an infant and I have a dog. So if you cannot take my +2 with me, don't come to my table. And he immediately told me, I want a family. How old is your son? And what kind of like he addressed it. And we went on a great date, and ever since he's been on the picture. And I'm just very thankful for him, because he was, when how I see it is, maybe he's not the biological father of my child, but he is the father my son needs, you
Oh,
know.
role
And
model and someone who is going to look after him and look after you guys too,
yeah,
vice versa. I think it's very, very important that you have that support system, especially from a partner. You
yeah,
know, sometimes they're like, oh, you're a single mother, but you have friends, you have family. Yeah, but it's always great to just have that
yeah,
extra love from the partner, the one that the person that you see every day, the person that is not only going to mentally stimulate you, but emotionally stimulate you as well. So
definitely.
it's really great that he stepped up, and I applaud him, and I give him a lot of props for taking, that responsibility.
In our culture, like the taboo, like, oh, eres mamá soltera,
Yeah. Las críticas,
so
the
right.
criticism.
Right. So to me, it's like when I put myself out there, yeah, a lot of guys were like, oh, you're a mom. I misread that. And I'm like, really? It says right there. I come with +2. And, to be real with you, Kimmy, like when I put myself on a Hinge, it was like a joke. I'm like, oh, just to see, just probably get me excited for nothing. And very thankful. And I believe that I had to go through what I had to go through to find the man that was meant to be for me and my son. And my son and him have a great bond.
Yeah, and for you to become the mother that your son needs now too,
Exactly.
because those what you went through, it might have been not a great situation at the time, but it molded you into the person that you need to be, the woman that you need to be, the mother that you need to be. And all of that is a lesson learned, and I'm proud of you for overcoming that. I know it was a tough time, and I am so, so sorry that you went through that. No mother, no person should ever go through that,
It
especially
has,
when, I'm a mother now, obviously.
yeah,
And our sons are like about the same age, right? Like a couple
yeah.
apart or so.
Two
So
months apart.
I know exactly what you went through and how you felt during your pregnancy. I know that they say every mother is different. Yeah, we're different in a sense of, not everyone gets postpartum depression, or maybe not as bad, but I do believe that we get some type of similar postpartum baby blues,
Oh yeah.
like in the beginning for me, I think I got a little depressed because I missed that pregnant feeling, like not feeling my baby kick anymore, not just having that feeling of protection, like they're always inside of you and you're going to look after them no matter what. And then after I had my baby, I had that postpartum depression to where I lost myself. Like I had a loss of identity, and I didn't know how to be, how to balance from being a mother to being a partner and being a friend and a daughter all at the same time. It was just too much for me at the time that it overwhelmed me. And I think the mental load of motherhood is all of that, juggling everything from, partner situations to being a first time mother. And that already itself is a lot. You just, you try to be the best person for your little one. I mean, they're the ones that are looking up to you, and you have just a huge responsibility. Hi, Bubba. Oh my God, he's so cute. Ladies and gentlemen,
Gary. Oh, he's climbing on motherhood.
yeah.
Okay, you want to be chismosito? Okay, we're gonna put you here.
Bye. Oh, our little feature over
We
here.
are gonna be buddies, They're gonna be heartbreakers when we go to Fresno.
This episode can't be the full episode without baby Gary. And Marcus, he's asleep, but
When
he's I'm enjoying my mommy juice, like I said right now, just having this conversation with you. And it's so great because a lot of mothers out there are going through the same thing. And I think it's a great opportunity to let them know that they are not alone.
I think for me, the load, I think the heaviest load was what I was going through with struggling with postpartum depression. Um, I after I gave birth, I lost myself because I was just so like, my delivery was very traumatic. I was in labor for 27 hours, like almost 20 without a epidural.
Yeah. Wow.
And just for me, it was the hardest because I didn't have no one to help me. I had to YouTube how to bathe my baby.
Same.
Yeah, it was like, where's my family? Where's my mom? And my mom was in a toxic relationship too, so she wasn't there for me. And I think that was the biggest disappointment, was that like I waited so long at 30 to be a mom. Consider I'm the first daughter, first granddaughter. I waited the longest out of everybody. And the moment I had my baby, yeah, we're in a pandemic, but I didn't have the support that I needed, And I feel like once I started going through, the nightmare, it brought me and my mom closer because she went through that when I was a kid. And I'm glad we're closer now, but it's unfortunate that we had to get closer during such a bad time. But honestly, one thing I tell everybody is that postpartum is real. Like, I had to get on Zoloft, and I got out of it recently just because I don't feel like I need the medicine anymore. But for a while, I had to get on medication because after I gave birth, I lost 40 pounds in 10 days.
I lost a lot of weight too.
Yeah.
I think it was the stress. It was like the pressure.
It's tough. Like, our bodies like take a toll, and
Absolutely.
One thing, a lot of like, I have like 5 girlfriends that are pregnant right now, and they're all over the US. And they all so thankful that they took from my story, and they reach out to me like, hey, how do you deal with this? Like, I'm dealing with like X amount of similarities with the baby daddy, or how did you deal with postpartum? And I share some tips with them. But one thing is that your body takes about 3 to 4 months to adjust. That's the reality. You're going to feel weird after you give birth. That's totally normal. Or you're going to miss having your baby, like you mentioned, like the movements, or it's just, for me, like, I struggled a lot with that. And sometimes I do like, oh, I want to have another one, but I'm like, no, wait a little bit longer, But I think the beauty of being a mother is that you learn with the process. And I can tell that from experiencing you too, Kimmy. It's like we've both been learning, going through the process. There's no such thing as the perfect parent the perfect, parenting guide, the perfect book,
Yeah.
it's a process that we all learn, and we roll with the punches, like when, Marky was teething really bad and you shared that, I was like, girl, I can relate. I'm going through it right now, or, the whole COVID experience, like,
Sleep deprived and all of that. Not getting
yeah,
enough good night's sleep. And I think that's another part of the mental load because, I mean, we weren't getting rest. Did you breastfeed, by the way?
I couldn't because I had breast cancer when I was 27.
I'm so
So I did not produce any milk. I tried the beer, everything. And
sorry.
the doctor said you could, but I think, I just couldn't. And then also the mentality like, oh, am I passing my genetics? The fear.
How tough was that on you? Because I know that, as a mother, you want to have that bond with your
Yeah.
baby.
It was heartbreaking because I did everything. I did the lactation consultant. Vente para acá, papa. He's watching Shrek, sorry. I did the Zoom calls where they show you how to latch, and nothing was happening. And I kept questioning, am I a good mom or am I a bad mom that I can produce milk? But then I keep, one thing my therapist told me is, I know you're a good mom. Not everybody has the gift, but you do have the bond because you gave birth. So those are different ways that we can bond with our babies. But yeah, part of me does wish I could have breastfeed, and it's just I
I,
didn't make anything.
one thing that, a lot of mothers probably go through as well is that pressure.
Yeah.
And like you said, you wish you could have breastfeed because a lot of people say, well, it's the healthiest way that you can produce for your baby. I understand that. I stopped breastfeeding at 6 months and it broke my entire heart. But I think around that time I was going through the most stress and I didn't want to pass that on to my baby. And then, I wasn't eating enough also. So I got really, really, really skinny. And then I stopped like producing a lot of milk. Like my
Yeah.
boobs get engorged of milk, like hard as a rock. I'm sorry, but I mean, we were all used to it. If all the moms are watching this, like, yeah, they're really nice and perky at some point, but
Yeah.
now it's like it just went downhill. But I think for me, the pressure of breastfeeding came from obviously, like, as Hispanics, my mom, my grandma, no estás comiendo suficiente, like you're not eating enough, like your son needs that, like your son would be, more chubby or like more full of life. And I'm like, I'm still trying to do everything that I can. Like for me, it was like that was a huge part of my
Oh,
health in that.
yeah.
And it was just a lot to take in. But then I had to like give myself some pep talks to where it's okay, like it's okay not to feel obligated to be able to produce, because not
That's so
everyone
true.
can produce enough. Are you Wait, did I lose you? Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Sorry. I don't know what
Hello?
happened.
I don't know. Like my phone just like froze. I was like, no, we're doing such a good talk.
Yeah, but I know that you have to go to your
It's okay. Tengo tiempo, mujer. I always got time for conversations with Kimmy, but how you mentioned, the stress or the load of like, we're bad moms if we don't breastfeed, you know, that's something that, like, yeah, I can totally relate because I got questioned a lot, like, oh, you're not breastfeeding, like, or if I wanted to breastfeed, it's like you're passing all the negativity to your baby.
And I'm not gonna lie, I feel guilty still for not continuing to breastfeed. But I had a conversation with my mom, and I
Yeah,
make her understand. I was like, Mom, like, what I was going through around that time, and
yeah,
how hard it was for me to even like give myself some nutrition. So let alone I wasn't gonna be able to provide nutrition to Marky because I wasn't getting enough nutrients myself. So I just, she understands, completely
it's good
understands.
though.
very understanding, but I think I still carry that guilt because everyone in my family, they all breastfed their kids till they were like 2 years old. And
My
I'm the
mom did it. Yeah.
who like stopped at 6 months. So, I still get some like little like
Pep talk.
comments from my aunts and my especially my grandma, but I understand my grandma. She's super old school.
Yeah.
and and then sometimes, but I think the way they come to you and the way they approach you is like they're blaming you and they're making you feel like you're at fault. But I just want to let all the mothers know out there that it's not your fault. Like you shouldn't feel guilty if you don't breastfeed or if you stop at an early time because not everyone can produce as much or you might be going through something.
Recently, one of my really good friends, her son's 4 months old, and she got COVID. Her man got COVID, and this is when the formula was in shortage.
It's still
So yeah, I think it's still going on. But for her, it's like, oh my god, like how do I feed my baby? I don't want to give him COVID because he didn't have COVID. But how do I feed my baby if I don't breastfeed him? I'm gonna be mom shamed. Like, oh, you should have breastfed him. And she's Chinese, so the Chinese family is like, oh, you'll be fine. And the doctors are like, no. So it was kind of like how, for her, she reached out and she told me, I have so much guilt. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, girl, let's just post it on Facebook and get milk donors. And that's what we did. And it worked out. But yes, it's the guilt that we're like, am I a good mom? Am I a bad mom? Am I doing enough?
glad you mentioned the whole COVID thing because I I shared that me and my son caught COVID earlier this year,
Yeah, I
but
remember that.
we stopped breastfeeding like a couple months before we caught COVID, and I felt the guiltiest during that time because one of my best friends, she still breastfeeds, I believe, or she used to breastfeed her son until he was like 1.5 or close to two or
Oh,
something.
wow.
So
Sorry.
only they also had caught COVID during that time.
Oh, wow.
And she was breastfeeding him. Apparently, it helped a lot.
Oh.
It helped him get better.
Mm.
Something with this breast milk that we produce
Right.
that just works wonders. And
True.
I had heard that even before I started breastfeeding, even before I had Marky, obviously. I heard that if they ever get sick, to breastfeed your baby because
Mm.
it not only provides the nutrients that they need, but it serves as medicine. Like, I think, like,
Mhm.
I want to say latch to the nipple, like,
Yeah.
your boob knows instantly that they need what they need, like what type of medicine they need. And I think like it realizes that your baby is sick, so it gives
Mhm.
them what they need to get better.
Yeah, I remember when you posted you got it, and I was like, oh my god, not Marky, because
Yeah.
little me and my man got COVID after 420. I mean, I didn't partake on the activities, but he had work, and at the work event, he probably, somebody think, something along those lines. We got it, and luckily, my grandma and my mom were here, so they took Gary to Fresno. And my grandma, she's like, no, mija, I'll keep the baby a little longer just because I want to make sure you guys are clear. So we were away from Gary for like almost 3 weeks.
Mhm.
And it was hard because, we're sick. We couldn't do nothing. And then like the house is quiet. You missed your baby. And the fear, like, will he forget about us? Will he not recognize us? But
Yeah.
then, the chismosos in the family saying, oh, you guys use the excuse, or you guys are like they I got mommy shame for not having my son for
Mhm.
3 weeks because people were saying, oh, she's partying. I'm like, yeah, I was partying in my bed, dying half of the time, like. So if
Yeah.
if you're sick and if you don't have your kid, you're being mom shamed. And if you are sick and your kid's with you, you're being mom shamed.
And if
It's
you
just
can't, no.
like gente chismosa. And what bothers me more, it comes from the family. That's the worst, or your worst critics. And I put that person on.
I think it also comes because your family wants what's best for you,
Yeah.
but if especially if they had kids before you even had your
Yeah.
child, they feel like they have the most experience and they just want to let you know so you won't make those same mistakes. And I get it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I appreciate, some of the things they say, but then some other things is just like, okay, that was just a little too much.
I was being mom shamed because my son stayed longer with my grandma and my mom in Fresno. And granted, my mom and my grandma were happy to have him, but then there's other family members shaming me because I didn't have my baby, So it's like you're never going to be good enough for other people as long as we know we're being good enough for our children and our kids growing up healthy and happy and they're developing. I think that's all that matters. And I can say that because, I've seen Marky develop, and I see how, he's walking around like cool kid in his little car. Gary has his little Jeep too, and it's like these babies, yeah, they probably endure a lot of, you know, trauma in delivery or throughout our pregnancies, but they're developing good. They're healthy. They're smiling. They're running, and that's honestly, as a mom, I feel like that's all that matters. El chisme, whatever, criticize me all you want, but I know we're good parents and we're doing whatever we can to raise our kids the right way. And to, and the fact that we both got biracial children, that's a whole different conversation. But at the end of the day, it's like we're setting the example for children and for other mothers that are probably in a similar position than what we were once or that we are now.
So I want to ask you, after we learned about what you went through with the father of your son, and the nonprofit organization that you started, the for not being a toxic mother, and you escaped that, which was, it's amazing to have that platform for other mothers out there who need it. And where can they find that, by the way, before we get into the rest?
Yeah. So Surviving Toxic Mothers, it's a little online community. So we are on Instagram at Surviving Toxic Mothers, on Facebook too. And even on my personal Instagram, anybody can reach me. There's been situations where I get messages from strangers, that I don't even know. They're like, hey, I just need to vent. I'm like, vent to me, girl. Tell me what's going on. And I'm very open, even if I'm busy, because I remember there was one time I needed to be heard and I had nobody. And I remember how horrible it felt that I had nobody, or I was afraid to tell my mom or my grandma because I didn't want to be judged. So for me, it's important to be that ear, that person. I might not be a therapist, but I'll listen to you. And I want to open that conversation for everybody that, you might be struggling with a partner that you might want to leave, or you might be struggling with postpartum or other things. Like, we're here for you. We might not give we might not be able to give you like free therapy sessions because we're not licensed therapists, but we have resources that can help you.
Absolutely. How are you feeling now?
I feel great. I feel like, I still struggle a little bit with my postpartum and anxiety, and I still deal with triggers from, the DV situation. But I can tell you that if I look back last year, my life has completely changed. Like, we went to Hawaii. My man Patrick took us to Hawaii early April. And when we were in Hawaii, my Snapchat showed me a memory of a year ago. And that memory was me crying, sending a video to my girlfriends, telling them what was going on. And it really hit me because we're in Hawaii. We're gonna go see turtles and fishes, And here, this video reminded me of all the crap I went through. And it's just powerful that if you manifest the life you want and you work for it, it can completely change. So it was a lot of
positive, meditating or praying, whatever works for everyone. Thank you, Gardenia. Like, we learned that the mental load of motherhood for you was dealing with a toxic relationship with the father of your son and letting go of that, learning how to let go. And luckily for you, a great partner came to your life and you guys are doing amazing. And I just wish you all the best. You are an amazing woman, amazing mother. And I just love that you carry that smile regardless of the ups and downs. And even if you had the most lows, I really, really love that. And it makes me happy to see another mother like striving and thriving for more. And I'm glad that you also started the Surviving Toxic Madres. And it's definitely something that we all need on a daily, and I hope everybody follows it, and I hope it works out the best for you. I'm just so glad that you're able to share this story. You are someone who is valuable, but also brave enough to be able to put that out there, because not everyone would be able to speak out like that. And you are the voice of the voiceless. So thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
a lot, especially with, not to bring it up, but the whole Amber Heard Johnny Depp situation. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, as a victim and survivor, I know how it feels. I'm not saying, it's not true or whatnot, but it's just one of those things that it's just, you have to be the voice. You have to share, and you cannot be afraid, and that's why I use my voice, and I hope that it helps other women out there, or men, or whoever that might be in the same situation. So
So
thank you for that.
thank you. And before we wrap it up, what's something that you would love to tell a mother out there who went through a similar situation like you, or is going through it right now?
I will say you're not alone. um I know it feels like you are alone, and I know you might feel like it's the end of the world, or you're a bad mom, or how could you end up in this position. But just know that you're not alone, because you have a little one. You may have a newborn, you might have a toddler, you might have kids that are 10, 12, but you're not alone. There's women out there that are willing to help you find resources to get out of it. And there's support groups, there's therapy, there's God, there's family, there's a little bit of everyone out there that's willing to help and hear you out. So just remember you're not alone, because I felt alone for the longest. And when I felt alone, that's when I hit my lowest. And when I reminded myself that I wasn't alone, that's when I was able to get out.
Thank you so much. I feel so blessed to have you be a part of this episode. Mental Load of Motherhood with Conversations with Kimmy. Thank you, Gardenia.
Thank you, Mama, so much. And keep doing a great example of motherhood and entrepreneur también, eh?
Thank you, girl.